Hello, everyone. I am here with Lex, and I met Lex at a farmer's market, and she was selling candles. And this incredible woman was so passionate about healthy candles and non toxic candles. And she was educating people on it and explaining how she got into it. And I just really vibed and resonated with her and asked her to teach us why it's important for us to be not only aware of what is in our candles and but also how to choose healthier candles. So we have Lex here. Hi girl.
Hello,
Yay.
y'all. Hello to the people.
Yes, yes. I'm so happy we could be together.
How's
So
it- Dr. Crescencia,
yes.
period. Okay, I just want to make sure because I never even talked about it. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. My friends call me Cece though.
okay, Dr. CC.
Yeah, friends
What?
call me Cece. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy we could do this. So the first thing I want everyone to know, if you could please help us understand,
Mhm.
what are toxic candles?
Yeah, so it's crazy because this is like we're kind of looping things back around, but this is just it's really important that we understand what it means to have something like this in our space because I started this business and it's not even I feel like it's technically a business, but I feel like it's more of a brand because it's so much bigger than just giving candles and selling candles. It's about what we create and the space that we create. So when we talk about candles, I feel like this is an intentional part to every self-care routine. And let me see if I can like try to like slide it in there. Maybe we can hopefully this angle's okay. Let me know.
Yeah, that looks great.
It's a little flame, but basically when we talk about the layers of our candles and just how it took me so long to really just sit with myself and acknowledge that candles are always in my space. They've been in my space for such a long time. But until 2019 happened, and I had a lot of time to sit with myself during like my I was in school. I was at Florida A&M University, and I came home for winter break that December. And this is crazy because I didn't even tell you this earlier. And it's just funny how it's all coming back around. But like it's interesting that I went home and I started to look at all the different candles that I always get at TJ Maxx and that there's like a plethora of candles there. They have a whole section of candles. And really taking the time to just stop and acknowledge, okay, well, what's in these candles? Like, let's do the research, Lex, because I wonder it's named something fresh or it's named something natural, but how natural is it? And this was also the beginning of my vegetarian stage because now
Mm.
I'm a full out vegan, but this is around the time where I had this awakening of, I was pescatarian before that. And it's like, we got to go all out. We got to cut it all out. And it was when I started to look at the candles and really acknowledging that and just buying the products that I needed in order to just swap it out one for one. And we started with the wax. I got into the wax and just seeing that the wax that I had been consuming was petroleum gas, diesel fuels, because it was made from paraffin wax. And that was just really, that was the first wake up call. Like, why would I want to be burning a small fire of diesel gas in my home? Diesel fuel. It's like, wow, okay. Well, what else is it? This is just the base of the candle.
Right, right.
Let's get into
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you please help us understand, why does that matter? Why shouldn't we be burning petroleum gas, paraffin wax?
yes. So petroleum gas, it leads to certain things that you could find in there, such as benzene, toluene, and it also no, actually I'm thinking about the wicks, y'all. I'm jumping ahead. That's in the metals from the wicks. That's in the metals from the wicks. But in terms of the wax, I mean, when you burn those, that can lead to an unhealthy air and you can get asthma. You can have trouble breathing. This is affecting your direct lungs and for allowing you to not breathe deeper. So when you talk about your space, I mean, people wonder how, they're breathing or just lung cancers occur or just so many different things that affect this system. And asthma, how does that happen? And it's small things like this that are in our space and we don't realize the effect of our air quality has even been compromised. So it's just interesting when we talk about the air quality of having a diesel fuel in our home in our direct space, because we usually have a candle not too far away from just a relaxing moment, and you're breathing deep.
Right. And it's candle season, it's winter here in Chicago. So I'm sure so many people have candles in their self-care routine. And you mentioned lung cancer and cancer. So can
Yeah.
you please touch on that? Is there a link between petroleum, this in candles and cancer?
Yes, yes. It's crazy because you would think that it's far-fetched, but when you start to look at even the National Cancer Society, and I know that there's things that are left off of that, which is interesting, but I saw that on there, they say that cancers, I mean, you tell me too, because you're a doctor, but from what I was reading, that a lot of the cancers are not necessarily caused by food, but about the other parts of our lives. And when we talk about petroleum gas, that's directly impacting our air, our quality. And it's interesting because the petroleum gas route, to be honest, once I find out a certain entity is affecting my space, there's not much more I have to see besides the fact, well, these are things we need to stay away from, period. Because it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
For me, if you can give me the layers to that.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. So petroleum is carcinogenic then?
Oh yes,
Just
yes.
so that way everyone understands.
I'm going in a full, yeah, it is. It is.
Okay.
It's
All right.
petroleum gas. And it's funny because, well, not funny, but it's just interesting at how that paraffin wax, that's the root of it, of how paraffin is used for so many different things that, I mean, even with our nails and those processes, and just of getting that single solid or gas. And when you do burn it, it's gas. So it's like, this is something that it shouldn't be in a wax form.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what else? You mentioned before phthalates. Can you
Yeah.
help us understand where are phthalates in candles and why do we need to know about phthalates? What's so important about phthalates?
The sun's coming. Okay, so you feel it? Like, I'm happy the sun is finally shining. It's finally around. We are in the city. But I just feel like, okay, so we have the fragrance oils and the essential oils. And with essential oils, these are completely different than a fragrance oil, which is also not marketed to us clearly, because phthalates are usually found, and it's crazy because I kind of have to say usually, even though we know that, like you said earlier, it's predominantly in these mainstream candle brands are phthalates, and phthalates are found in these fragrance oils. So when we look at a candle, we see all these different notes that are in there. We see all these different scents that there are, and we automatically sometimes, and I can't even say we, but I know I personally automatically assumed that this was the same as an essential oil because it sounds fresh, it sounds natural, it sounds good. But then you realize that no, these are just fragrance oils that are composed of that chemical phthalate. And when you have phthalates and you're burning phthalates, that is another direct link to carcinogens because of the natural or the synthetic toxins that are placed into that to even form that fragrance. So they're able to technically say it is like, let's say an evergreen candle. Like, it just sounds fresh. That sounds clean. Like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. Take me to the forest.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You feel like automatically connected. But then you realize that, well, that's not really in a direct evergreen pine base. That's just an evergreen fragrance oil that just tried to make it look like it was pine. And now we're saying it's pine. So it's like the alteration of a lot of things that's symbolic for our lives, of us giving two options of the natural substance that comes out of the ground and something that is a little bit cost effective, but it looks like it smells like it. We're just going to go with it. And I feel like that's where we're at with the fragrance versus essential and herbal oils. And the candle industry will tell you, even when you're trying to learn how to make candles, that paraffin wax, that fragrance oils is what makes a candle strong. And it's just not true. It's just not true, because it's everything we need, the earth does provide. And I feel like I made a product that is exactly proving to the point that you don't need any of those ingredients to form something with a good scent throw that is plants.
Right.
So it's just
And
interesting.
when you say phthalates, the first thing I think of is thyroid dysfunction.
Mm.
Phthalates have been linked with thyroid dysfunction. Phthalates are in a lot of personal care products. And, when I talk to patients about thyroid health or hormonal health, endocrine health, adrenal health, I am always letting them know, or if they're trying to conceive and they're trying to work on fertility, I'll talk to them about detoxing their environment and talk to them about replacing their products and getting rid of phthalates because it's known to directly impact thyroid function, which can then lead to offspring with lower IQ. Not,
Whoa.
yeah, that's like a whole other thing that we could,
Yeah.
touch on, but
Yeah.
just thyroid function in general is so important for our metabolism,
Mm.
and for how good we feel and for, overall physical health. And so if we are getting these not only in our personal care products, but now you're saying these are in our candles and we are inhaling them, that is going to lead to more hormone disruption.
Mm.
And we're seeing that. We're seeing more hormone disruption in women. We're seeing more infertility in women. We're seeing more PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome in women. And so we wonder why. Well, we're having more environmental toxins around us. So this is just so important. I'm just really happy that that we met and that you can educate us on this, because I never would have thought that phthalates were in candles, let alone, petroleum gas. Um, so you mentioned, okay, these toxins that are in there. What do we do? What kind of candles should we look for? What kind of things should be in our candles? What kind of things are in your candles?
Yeah. I would say the first step is to do more than what they're giving us. So when we see a candle and we look at it and we look at the back and it tells you just the few ingredients that are in there, because like we talked a little bit about before, they're not required. Candle businesses fall into this category to where they're not necessarily having to be honest with what's in the product.
Okay.
And when you place that, when you look at what's in there, you look at the layers. I just lost my train of thought. The layer we were talking about, well, it was you said the differences. Okay, yeah. So when you look at the candles and you see them, you see what the ingredients are, and you see, let's say it says a natural blend, a natural soy wax blend. I would say that's the first sign of, well, what does that mean? Like, what is the blend then? Because if we have the soy wax, it has to be something else if it says it's a blend. And we have to acknowledge the blend. So we look and see online, we have to do and dig a little bit, because it could be a blend with paraffin wax. And then that's where we go back to the petroleum gas. So we have to make sure that it's a natural plant-based blend. And then you can see that would be either a coconut, an apricot. Those are, I would say, the main ones next to soy that we often see. And also just to look out for like those palm waxes and paraffin wax, and even a beeswax would be better than the palm and the paraffin wax, because it's coming from the bees. But in terms of a plant-based, we're just going to do coconut, soy, and apricot. And if they can't do it, then we don't want it.
Okay. All right. So we want soy, apricot, coconut, or beeswax.
Yep.
Those are going to be our healthier options.
Yes, 100%. And I would say, honestly, too, even check with those when we see those, like, is it saying it's an all paraffin or all soy, all apricot? And if it says blend, we're going to test them and say, okay, well, what is it blended with? And then we'll know from that moment that, okay, this is a 100% plants or 100% sustainable.
Okay. And then talk to us about the wick. What
Yeah.
do you know about the wick?
Yes. So we were talking a little bit about how the wicks are cotton wicks. And that's also another marketing tactic, because when you see cotton, you think of the earth, and cotton comes from the earth. And that's what got me at first. Like, okay, like that's always pushed onto manufacturers in candles, like just use cotton wicks, they're eco-friendly. And it's like, well, regardless of the fact that they are cotton, in order for cotton to even stand up straight, it's not in its natural state because it needs to be coated in zinc, tin, copper, all these different types of metals. And when you burn that, that's when we see the benzene, that's when we see the toluene and these other ridiculous names that I can't even pronounce. But it's just like, okay, well, what is this? And I know benzene is a direct effect, a direct link to lung cancer. So that's, we're tied right back from, if the wax didn't get us, if the fragrance with the phthalates didn't get us, then we're gonna go ahead and get to that wick, and then the wick eventually it circles us back to that lung cancer. So it's just looking at the different components, because even with the dyes we have to be careful of, and knowing what are these dyes made out of, and most of the time they are phthalates in the dyes. So
Wow. And you said heavy metals. With heavy metals, we're seeing again, even in men, we're seeing lower testosterone, younger and younger and younger. And lower testosterone is associated with higher heavy metals toxicity. So if we're inhaling heavy metals along with having heavy metals, let's just say in our food, heavy metals in medications or in other things that we're consuming, I mean, that's just going to compound on our environmental, health and toxicity levels. So it's really interesting. I would have never known that the wick is coated in heavy metals to stand up straight. It makes sense. They need to stand up straight. So what do we do? What type of wick would we want if we don't want the cotton that's coated with heavy metals?
yeah, I would say the best switch out is a wooden wick. And that's what we do. We're doing wooden wicks because wooden wicks, this is also too, they're uncured. This is a raw wick. And they're taking them from the Forest Stewardship Council, meaning that it's not taking away from the indigenous forest. They're properly sourced, and they plant a tree every time we spend $100. So we're not
Hey.
we're not just taking away from these people, and honoring the space that you said we're given. That's, we cannot take from anything and not return. So
Absolutely.
I feel like it's, and we also do, I do a recycle reuse program. So when you return the jars, you get 20% off every time, because we know with just recycling, what's happening with that, and how can we trust that, it is being repurposed. So it's just being intentional in every way we are, and every, whatever our print is on this earth, it does matter. And I found my own lane to be able to make an impact